Assalamu alaikum fam, hope you're doing fantastic. So we're continuing our reading of St. Thomas Aquinas' Summa Theologica, highly educational for every student of theology. If you want to have an effective conversation with a high-level Catholic, I think Aquinas is very potent. I mean, Aquinas was taking on atheists before it was cool, before YouTube was invented, so we can learn a lot from his style of response to objections. So we're in the 7th article, whether God is the object of this science, which is what they call the sacred doctrine. We proceed thus to the 7th article, objection 1. It seems that God is not the object of this science, for in every science the nature of its object is presupposed. But this science cannot presuppose the essence of God, for Damascene says in Defeed Orth 1.iv, it is impossible to define the essence of God. Therefore, God is not the object of this science. So you see how it was very logical the way they worded that? He's trying to say, well, you cannot presuppose the essence of God, therefore your sacred doctrine is not the object of the science that you say. So let's see how he responds. Reply objection 1. Although we cannot know in what consists the essence of God, nevertheless, in this science we make use of his effects. Notice that. Very clever. So you don't know what the essence of God consists of, but the effects thereof, he argues, you can make use of them. Now notice this. Either of nature or of grace. So of nature or of grace. In place of a definition. So notice this. So you may not have the definition of the effects, but you can look at the nature and grace and that way of going about it. Very interesting. In regard to whatever is treated of this science concerning God, even as in some philosophical sciences, we demonstrate something about a cause from its effect, by taking the effect in place of a definition of the cause. So, taking the effect instead of taking the definition of the cause, right? Definition of causes, the effects. So, we're dealing with, we can't know the essence of God, but we can look at the effects through nature or grace, and that will be our substitute instead of a definition. Very interesting. Objection 2. Further, whatever conclusions are reached in any science must be comprehended under the object of the science. But in Holy Writ we reach conclusions not only concerning God, but concerning many other things, such as creatures and human morality. Therefore God is not the object of this science. Very interesting there. So, whatever conclusions are reached must be comprehended under the object of the science. That is a very interesting assertion. So you cannot, he contends that the sacred doctrine doesn't have God as the object of its science because it has other topics such as creatures and human morality. So it concerns other things beyond just God. So this is going to be a very interesting reply that he'll do. Reply objection 2. Whatever other conclusions are reached in the sacred science are comprehended under God, not as parts or species, accidents, but as in some way related to him. So notice this. So if you reach conclusions through the sacred science, you will comprehend them under God. They will not be as decentralized, right? They won't be a separate species. They're not accidents. They're going to go back to the original cause, which is God, right? Some way related to him, meaning everything, every conclusion that you reach is going to be traced back to God. Therefore, sacred doctrine is not a matter of argument. So it's not just about semantics. Very interesting. On the contrary, the object of the science is that of which it principally treats. But in this science, the treatment is mainly about God, for it is called theology, as treating God. Therefore, God is the object of this science. Now he's going to give us his answer back. Oh, it's very potent. Very potent. I answer that God is the object of this science. The relation between a science and its object is the same as that between habit or faculty and its object. Notice that. Did you catch that? So the habit or faculty, how it relates to its object. So he argues that the object of their sacred doctrine, God is part of that. He contends. Now, properly speaking, the object of a faculty or habit is the thing under the aspect of which all things are referred to that faculty or habit. So notice this. The aspect of which all things are referred to the faculty or habit. Referring back. Everything you study within their sacred doctrine refers back to God, remember? Revelation. As man and stone are referred to the faculty of sight in that they are colored. Hence, colored things are the proper objects of sight. Very logical. But in sacred science, all things are treated of under the aspect of God. So in sacred science, everything's under the aspect of God, right? All goes back to Him. Either because they are God Himself, or because they refer to God as their beginning and end. So it's either related directly to God, or stemmed beginning from God, or had to do with the end, which goes back to God. Hence it follows that God is in very truth the object of this science. Because remember, the sacred science, they're dealing with how you study the doctrine and how you begin to have a twofold manner of judgment, and you will acquire it by study, but the principles are obtained by revelation, you see? So either way, you're going back to God. This is clear also from the principles of the science, namely the articles of faith, for faith is about God. So we're reading the articles of faith, right? That's what we're doing. So we're seeing all those topics, and all those topics thus far have to do with God. The object of the principles and of the whole science must be the same, since the whole science is contained virtually in its principles. So the whole science is contained virtually in its principles. That is very smart. Somehow, however, looking to what is treated of in this science, and not to aspect under which it is treated, have asserted the object of this science to be something other than God, that is, either things and signs, or the works of salvation, or the whole Christ, as the head and the members. Of all these things, in truth, we treat in this science, but so far as they have reference to God. So everything in the sacred science has a reference to God. So clearly he is demonstrating that God is the object of their science, of their sacred doctrine, and that you will reach those conclusions in a way through study, and since God is either the beginning or the end or refers to Him, it'll still be related. Just like how he said a habit or faculty is related to its object. God is the object, so the principles and the doctrines are going to go back to the object, which is God. They don't mean God is a little object, but the object of the principles of the whole science, right? So, very interesting, very telling. Alright, that was the 7th article.